So, mommy and daddy are fighting again, and yet here we are, suffering the consequences of their actions. Hello everybody, and welcome to today's video, which was originally supposed to be an update on the Jimmy Kimmel situation, and then I was going to go over the government's continuous fight against our First Amendment rights. But instead, something really big happened, and that is the fact that on Wednesday, October 1st, the government has officially shut down. That's right, the government shut down. So what does that actually mean? How does that affect us? What does that mean for the government? Why is it happening? Well, for one, going over why it's happening, you're kind of getting a lot of mixed messaging, right? You listen to somebody like JD Vance talk about it. Obviously, his position, blaming the Democrats.
The Chuck Schumer AOC wing of the Democratic Party shut down the government because they said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for healthcare for illegal aliens. You
listen to somebody on the other side, like Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer, and they're blaming the Republicans.
Democrats are fighting to protect the healthcare of the American people. And we are not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the healthcare of everyday Americans.
There's a lot of finger pointing and, blame game going on here. And it's very clearly somebody's lying here. Somebody's lying here because they're complete opposite ends of the spectrum of what they are claiming. So we'll go ahead and break that down in a bit. The essential why it's happening, the Democrats and the Republicans could not agree with how to extend funding for the government. The two sides have competing bills that will allocate money to certain programs and things like that. The biggest point of contention has to do with funding for what the Republicans claim as the Democrats want to fund illegal immigrants' healthcare. The Democrats are claiming that they want to protect the American people from further cuts to their healthcare. So we'll get into all that in a bit, but before I do that, I just want to say, this is affecting people's lives. The government shutdown, it isn't just the big Congress people, the ones who are making these decisions, having a fight, who aren't getting paid. That's not the case. This is trickling down to all federal workers. So that's including your TSA agents, your flight traffic controllers, your national park workers. All those employees are now put on furlough. What's even worse is that the Trump administration has outright said that they'll most likely be laying off a lot of people who are a specific political leaning, which is, in my opinion, an abuse of power.
There might be firings during the shutdown. Do you think that will happen if the shutdown goes for a little bit of time, sir?
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut.
We are going to have to lay some people off if the shutdown continues. We don't like that. We don't necessarily want to do it, but we're going to do what we have to keep the American people's essential services continuing to run.
All of this information coming out is very scary, especially if you are a federal employee, because you don't know what the hell's going to happen. You're not getting paid right now. If it continues for more than a few weeks, it is going to really hurt people's livelihoods. And not only that, but it's going to affect certain programs that are funded by the government right now. If this continues on, certain programs aren't going to be affected right away. Certain programs still have funding for now. But eventually, if this continues on, it's going to screw over a lot of people. I'm filming this on Friday, and they are supposed to come back and hopefully work it out again today, but we will see. However, it doesn't really matter if they do come to a conclusion, because what we've seen in the past few days, again, somebody is lying here. JD Vance did go on and speak to the press about what is happening exactly here. So he claims that the Democrats are basically holding the government hostage and holding all of these employees hostage, shutting down the government because they want to fund illegal aliens.
They want to give health care benefits to illegal aliens. That is true. They gave us legislative text that would have undone us cutting off healthcare benefits for illegal aliens. That's one of the things that they asked for.
That statement is a very bold statement. So what does that mean exactly? The Democrats want to give free healthcare to illegal and undocumented immigrants per things like the Affordable Care Act, or Medicare or Medicaid, these federally funded programs.
These Democrats are coordinating their strategy with outside leftist groups and are demanding nearly $1.5 trillion in spending for an agenda that includes healthcare for illegal aliens and much, much more.
Pump your brakes just a little bit, okay? Let's not cheer him on for just a second. Let's think this through. Because as an undocumented, you don't have access to federally funded programs that normally require you to prove that you are an American citizen. Since 1996, undocumented immigrants are not allowed to go into these programs. That statement already is a red flag in my mind for maybe, I don't know, there's some untruths in that statement there, but that's the claims that they are going for, right? That the Democrats want to continue providing free healthcare to undocumented immigrants and basically screwing over the rest of the American citizens, right? That is the angle that they're going with. Now, the Democrats are fighting back and saying that is not what we are proposing. What we are proposing is to stop you from gutting programs like Medicare and Medicaid, which will affect, obviously, people on those programs who rely on those programs, citizens included, but it will also affect rural areas, mainly rural hospitals. Even if you're not like dependent on those programs, more than likely you'll still feel the impact in your community if the Republican version of this bill passes through. And basically what the Democrats are saying is that they are trying to push back against that. The only thing related to migrants that are in their proposal has to do with documented and legal immigrants. Because apparently what the Republicans are trying to do is they're trying to restrict access to even those people. So it doesn't matter if you're illegal or legal, you are no longer going to get access to those programs under their proposal. Clearly, as you can see, we have two very different tales going on right now. And just based off of the information, listening to JD Vance speak and then knowing basic law, we know that illegal immigrants are not able to access the funding to programs such as the ACA, Medicare, Medicaid. So in my opinion, right, I think the Republicans are full of shit. I think they're conflating and they're purposefully misleading American people to get them pissed and riled up and pointing fingers at the Democrats, because what they want to do is they want to gut the entire thing. And it doesn't matter if you're illegal, legal, eventually it's going to come down to natural born citizens too. They want to take away funding. Period. Across the board. I really don't think they like poor people. I'm gonna be so for real. I don't think they like poor people. And that's my opinion. But that's sort of the energy that they're giving here. There are millions of Americans who rely on these programs to make healthcare insurance affordable. We all know health insurance is bullshit. I have really shitty health insurance. However, I can afford it. There are millions of people out there, citizens, who cannot. And what the Republicans are proposing is going to completely gut the funding that is given to those people to help those in need. This isn't about illegal versus legal migrants. I really think they just don't like poor people. This is about trying to save money in one place to give it to another place, right? That's all it really is. And what this will end up doing is this will increase your insurance premiums. This will make you not want to go to the doctor. This will make healthcare providers less efficient. It's a trickle-down effect. It'll effectively hurt the entire healthcare system, which is already bullshit as it is. By shutting down the government, even though it is hurting people currently, it is sort of the only way to stop this monstrous bill from passing. Yes, you can say that the Democrats are holding the current federal employees hostage, theoretically, but that is really the only tool that they have to use right now. And I'm a little nervous because I don't know how they're going to hold out. I don't think the Republicans are going to give in. The Democrats are led by Chuck Schumer, who he's not exactly the strongest man alive. He doesn't really have a backbone, to put it nicely. So I am a little nervous. I'm surprised he even did this much. We'll have to see if he continues to have a backbone. He has a lot of pressure from his own party, right? And the one thing I will say about the Republicans, what they are saying, some of the truth that they're saying, Chuck Schumer is getting a lot of pressure from the quote-unquote radical left.
Chuck Schumer is terrified she's going to get a primary challenge from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The reason why the American people's government is shut down is because Chuck Schumer is listening to the far-left radicals in his own party because he's terrified of a primary challenge.
I do think there is maybe some political motives as to why Chuck Schumer is doing this, and that is to keep his leadership position. So I can totally, that's what Republicans are saying, and I can totally believe that, honestly, because if you know anything about Chuck Schumer, he's a little weaselly. Another thing too that I have been finding very annoying because I was trying to read what they're trying to propose, right? Because you get a lot of information coming from both sides. So it's like, okay, what is actually written down on paper? When I was going on to federal websites, I somehow stumbled upon this one. This is just an example, right? Democrat counterfeit resolution, a $1.5 trillion ransom note to taxpayers. You have other public agency websites that also have very similar messaging. The radical left in Congress shut down the government. HUD will use available resources to help Americans in need. All of these things, all of these languages on these sites that are supposed to be nonpartisan are very clearly pointing the finger and spreading this misinformation, which I think is just propaganda. These are supposed to be nonpartisan sites, and yet they're over here saying the radical left, it's the radical left's fault. Oh, another thing that happened is that the White House also moved to cancel a bunch of funding, billions of dollars worth of funding that are going into things like climate change and infrastructure projects going to New York. So all of these things that are happening and like all of these actions that are being taken by the White House, all of these words that are being said by Republican representatives like J.D. Vance or Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, I don't believe you. I do not believe the words that are coming out of your mouth. It's very frustrating to listen to these people on stage talk about things and just straight up lie, and you just have to sit there and just kind of cock your head at it and be like, what are you talking about? I can't really like accurately put into words how this makes me feel, because there is a certain level of frustration. There is a certain level of I told you so. There is a certain level of, well, what did we expect? There is a certain level of sadness. There is a certain level of empathy, and like there's just like a lot of emotions whenever you look at something like this happening, and it's just, you are just watching two groups play a game of chicken with other people's lives. I understand where the Democrats are coming from and why this, you know, you strip away the empathy and the morality of it all. It's a very smart chess move to shut down the government and not agree with this absolute atrocious bill, which is again something they should have done a hell of a lot sooner, but whatever. It is a smart move to do this, but you know, once we factor back in that empathy and the morality of it, you are playing with people's livelihoods. We're playing it day by day. This is only the third day. Should be okay for right now if we open back up again. But if not, if this continues on, you're going to be really hurting people who rely on these jobs to pay for rent, to pay for childcare, to pay to live. You're playing games with people's lives, and then you're gonna lie about it. Like that's very disgusting. I will know people who will be affected either way. Honestly, I'll know people who will be affected if the bill does get passed. I know people who will be affected if they continue to shut down the government, and it's gonna have a really bad ripple effect on the community. So that's part of the reason why I feel like I need to speak out. Also, I'm a big hater of the government now, okay? I gotta criticize everything they do, especially when they do stupid shit like this. If you want to find out more information about everything, because I just did a very brief breakdown and probably not very intelligently, I'll leave links to everything down below if you want to do more research on it. That's gonna be it for today's video, so if you enjoyed, please leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys on something else. So goodbye, have a nice life, and enjoy your time while you have it, because I don't know how the future's gonna look. It's looking very dire, I'm gonna be honest, it's looking very dire.